Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something quite fundamental. It's not just about tech anymore, is it?
Not at all. It's hitting right at the core of how we see ourselves, how we understand the world.
Exactly. We're diving deep into three concepts that honestly are everywhere when you talk about AI: consciousness, intelligence, and agency.
They get thrown around a lot,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes interchangeably, which can be, well, problematic.
Right. And you, our listeners, have sent in some fantastic source material, Harari, Kurzweil, some really deep thinkers. So, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is pretty clear. We need to distinguish these concepts, really pull them apart for critical social discussions, and try to get a handle on what they mean for AI and, frankly, for all of us for our future.
It's crucial work because what's fascinating here is how fast this is all moving. These aren't just abstract philosophical debates anymore.
No way. It's daily reality.
Precisely. AI's advancements are just relentless, forcing us to grapple with these age-old questions about mind, action, autonomy, but with this, intense new urgency. Historically, our intuition, the way we're wired, has always sort of linked being smart with being conscious.
Yeah, that makes sense. If something acts intelligently, you assume there's someone home, right?
Exactly. We instinctively thought, well, only beings that can feel pain or pleasure, that have some inner life, could possibly show complex intelligence. It's almost like self-evident.
Comfortable, maybe.
Comfortable, yeah. But the source material really drives this home, that traditional link. It might be breaking down as AI evolves. Harari's insight here isn't just theory, it's quite a stark warning. Our deep-seated belief that smart equals sentient. Well, AI is kind of shattering that.
Showing us intelligence without the feeling part.
Right. Powerful intelligence operating seemingly without any inner experience, which makes humanity's claim to unique value feel a bit more tenuous.
And then you have someone like Kurzweil with his technological singularity idea.
Yeah, that vision where AI might just blow past human capabilities entirely. It forces these really uncomfortable questions like, could our self just be reducible to code? Can consciousness be uploaded?
Which science hasn't answered.
Not even close. Current science is nowhere near proving that consciousness can be algorithmized. It's a huge assumption.
So intelligence, consciousness, and you mentioned a third dimension.
Absolutely. We have to bring in agency and freedom because AI isn't just thinking, it's potentially acting autonomously. And that's where things get even more complex, raising these massive questions about control, choice, and what freedom even means anymore.
Wow. Okay, that really sets the stage. It's kind of wild how quickly science fiction became, well, just science.
Or at least pressing societal questions driven by science.
Right. So, as we're all trying to navigate this, what does this all mean for you listening right now? For us? To help map this out, we've structured this deep dive into three main parts, mirroring the sources and our mission today. First, we'll tackle that tricky separation: consciousness versus intelligence. What happens when smart doesn't mean sentient?
The great decoupling, as Harari puts it.
Exactly. Then we'll pivot to agency and freedom. What happens when AI isn't just a tool, but maybe an actor? How does that affect our choices?
Yeah, the shift from passive automation to active agent.
And finally, we'll try to weave it all together. The relationship between consciousness and agency. Why understanding that interplay is just so critical for, well, for humanity's future with AI. It's definitely going to challenge some assumptions. So let's jump right in.
Okay, so to start separating these, we really have to begin with consciousness. And let's be clear up front. This is probably the slipperiest concept of the three,
The hardest one to pin down.
by far. There's no single, easy, universally agreed upon definition. It's incredibly multi-layered. Philosophers, neuroscientists, psychologists, they all look at it differently.
Different pieces of the same puzzle.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Each perspective offers valuable insights, but none seem to capture the whole thing perfectly. So if you look at philosophically, you often land on thinkers like Thomas Nagel. He famously talked about consciousness as subjective experience.
The what it's like thing.
Exactly. His essay, What Is It Like to Be a Bat?, is iconic. It's not about function or how the bat processes sonar signals. It's about the internal, felt quality of being that bat, the raw experience itself.
Something we can't really access from the outside.
Precisely. Think about seeing the color red, or tasting chocolate, or feeling pain. It's inherently personal, private. Nagel argued, even if we knew everything about a bat's biology, we still wouldn't know what it feels like subjectively. That internal qualia is distinct. And this also ties into, philosophical distinctions like access consciousness versus phenomenal consciousness. Access is about reporting states, using info in reasoning something AI might simulate. Phenomenal is the raw feeling. And that's the crux of the problem with AI.
Okay, so that's the philosophical angle. What about neuroscience?
Well, neuroscientists try to link consciousness to specific brain activity. They look for complex patterns, interactions between different brain regions, especially related to things like wakefulness, attention, self-awareness.
Like the brain building a model of itself in the world.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Integrating all this sensory input and internal state stuff into a unified experience. Areas like the prefrontal cortex, the default mode network often come up. It's about the biological machinery, the neural correlates.
And psychologists.
Psychologists often focus more on the reportable, reflective parts. What aspects of our mental life can we actually talk about, analyze, use to consciously guide behavior? Think working memory, focus, intention.
So different lenses. But is there a common thread for our discussion?
I think so. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the key takeaway, the unifying idea here, is really crucial. Consciousness is fundamentally about experience. It's not about computation.
Experience versus computation. That's a key line.
It is. It's the difference maybe between a weather simulation perfectly modeling a hurricane and actually feeling the wind and the rain. AI, for all its power, seems to operate in the realm of syntax symbol manipulation without genuine semantics, without the meaning or the subjective oomph we associate with understanding or feeling.
That's a really helpful distinction, simulation versus feeling. Okay, so if consciousness is this elusive subjective experience, let's ground ourselves in intelligence. You said that's more straightforward.
Comparatively, yes. While consciousness is about the inner world, intelligence is much more outward-facing, operational.
Meaning we can define it by what it does.
Pretty much. At its core, intelligence is the ability to solve problems, analyze situations, learn from environments, and achieve specific goals.
Okay, like what? Give us some examples.
Things like logical reasoning, spotting complex patterns in data, doing rapid calculations to find the best solution, adapting behavior to reach some desired outcome. These are all things we can observe, measure, test.
Right, things AI is getting incredibly good at.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting, because this distinction sets the stage for that decoupling we mentioned. This kind of intelligence does not necessarily require subjective experience.
It can solve the problem without feeling the problem.
Precisely. An AI can diagnose a disease from a scan, win a complex game, navigate traffic all incredibly efficiently, without any sign that it has an internal what-it's-like state. It doesn't need to feel satisfaction or frustration or the aha moment of insight.
It just processes and executes.
Right. It processes information, learns from data, makes predictions, optimizes for a specific objective function given to it. It's about achieving the goal, not experiencing the journey. And this clear, functional definition of intelligence, separate from the murkiness of consciousness, is exactly why AI is forcing us to rethink everything.
Yeah, and that really gets to the heart of this decoupling. Our default assumption for millennia, really, was that if something acted smart, it must be conscious on some level.
Because our only example was us.
And maybe animals.
Exactly. We saw complex adaptive behavior, and we naturally inferred an inner world, projected our own experiences onto it.
Yeah.
But AI, it's thrown a massive spanner in the works. It demonstrates incredibly powerful intelligence, sometimes superhuman intelligence, but with zero reliable evidence of subjective experience.
So let's talk examples. You mentioned AlphaGo earlier.
Right. AlphaGo is a perfect case study. Developed by DeepMind, it beat the world's best Go players. And Go isn't just calculation. It's seen as highly intuitive, creative. People thought AI was decades away.
How did it learn?
A mix. It learned from human games, but the real kicker was reinforcement learning playing against itself, literally trillions of times. It developed strategies that top human players called beautiful, even alien.
Like move 37 against Lee Sedol?
Yeah, that's the one. Famous move. Looked like a total mistake at first, utterly bizarre. But then it turned out to be this stroke of genius that changed the whole game, maybe the whole way humans thought about Go. It showed incredible problem-solving, pattern recognition, goal achievement, textbook intelligence.
Wow.
But this raises an important question. Did AlphaGo feel the excitement of winning? Did it appreciate the beauty of its own move? Did it understand the human opponent's shock?
And the answer is?
We just don't know.
Yeah.
And more importantly, there's absolutely no scientific reason to believe it did. It executed an optimal strategy based on its training and objective function. Full stop. And this is where Harari's warning really bites. His key insight from the source material is that the evolution of intelligence, at least the artificial kind, doesn't depend on consciousness anymore.
Unlike biological evolution, where they seem to go hand in hand.
Right. For millions of years, smarter often meant better survival, and consciousness seemed tied to that. Now, we're engineering pure intelligence, potentially without any feeling, that can vastly outperform us in more and more tasks.
Hmm.
Diagnosing cancer, driving cars, managing complex systems.
And the danger is?
The danger Harari points out is that these highly intelligent, non-conscious entities might optimize for their goals without any consideration for human well-being, our values, or ethics, simply because they lack the subjective experience of concepts like suffering, fairness, or meaning. Their goal is the programmed objective, not us. That's a future we need to think about very, very carefully for our social discussions.
It really forces you to separate function from feeling, doesn't it? Which brings us to reflecting on our own biases, maybe, our human-centric view.
Definitely. While Harari points out the danger humans losing economic or social value to AI, the source material also suggests this framing is still quite human-centric. It focuses on our potential loss.
Instead of asking about the intrinsic nature of AI or our own intrinsic value.
Exactly. Maybe humans, as conscious beings, retain a unique kind of value in ethics, culture, art, meaning-making, empathy, experiencing joy and sorrow that purely intelligent systems, however capable, might never possess. Our significance might lie precisely in that subjective realm that AI lacks.
Which connects to the critique of Kurzweil's singularity idea, right?
Huh?
The whole uploading consciousness thing.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Kurzweil's vision often implies consciousness is just super complex computation, something you can digitize, backup, transfer. It assumes consciousness can be reduced to an algorithm.
But you said science isn't there.
Not even close. As the source points out, that's a massive leap of faith. Current science hasn't proven consciousness is algorithmic. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Perhaps future breakthroughs will tell us, but right now, we simply don't know. That what it's like, quality, remains deeply mysterious, resistant to purely computational explanations. There are theories, of course, like integrated information theory, which suggests consciousness might emerge from complexity and integration.
That's still theories.
Still theories. We don't know if reaching some threshold of complexity automatically sparks subjective experience, or if it's something else entirely, maybe even non-physical. We can't just assume intelligence equals potential consciousness.
And that ties into the hard problem, doesn't it? This philosophical blind spot.
Absolutely. David Chalmers coined the term. The easy problems are about explaining functions, how the brain processes info, controls behavior, distinguishes things, stuff AI is getting good at simulating.
But the hard problem.
The hard problem is why. Why should all that processing feel like anything at all from the inside? Why isn't it all just happening in the dark, functionally? Why is there subjective experience?
So even if an AI acted perfectly conscious, wrote amazing poetry, seemed empathetic,
We still have no way to know if it was genuinely experiencing anything internally. We could only see the behavior, the simulation. The subjective reality or lack thereof would remain hidden. It's a fundamental gap.
so what does this all mean for us, wrapping up this section?
It means we have to be really careful with our assumptions. Intelligence and consciousness are not the same thing, especially with AI. We need to grapple with these distinctions honestly as we think about AI's role in society. Okay, so we've separated intelligence and consciousness. Now let's bring in the third key concept, agency. And this adds a whole other layer of complexity, particularly regarding freedom.
How is agency different from just, say, automation?
That's a great starting point. What's fascinating here is the shift. Traditional automation, think factory robots from decades ago. They just repeat preset actions, weld here, screw this in, over and over.
Programmed, repetitive, no deviation.
Exactly. Purely reactive tools executing explicit instructions in a very controlled setting. They have zero autonomy beyond their precise programming.
But AI is different.
Fundamentally different. Modern AI can exhibit proactiveness. It can show agency. Instead of just following rigid instructions, it can learn autonomously, observe its environment, predict outcomes, and make decisions often in uncertain or new situations without needing a human to tell it exactly what to do at every step.
Like the self-driving car example again.
Perfect example. It's not just following a map route. It's constantly perceiving thousands of data points, other cars, people, lights, weather. It's predicting what might happen next, and it's making real-time, complex decisions. Accelerate, brake, swerve.
Decisions it wasn't explicitly programmed for in that exact scenario.
Right. It learned general principles from vast amounts of data and simulation, and it applies those principles adaptively. It refines its internal models. This proactive ability, this capacity to initiate action based on internal models and goals, transforms AI from just a tool into a potential actor or agent.
An agent acting in the world, not just reacting to it.
Precisely. It can pursue goals somewhat independently, and that shift from passive tool to active agent, it fundamentally changes our relationship with technology and forces us to rethink control and influence.
Okay, so AI as an agent, that sounds powerful, but also maybe a bit concerning. Okay, let's unpack this. This agency must come with risks.
Significant risks, and one of the biggest, which the sources highlight, is the black box problem.
The idea that we don't know how the AI makes its decisions.
Exactly. Especially with deep learning models, the internal logic can be incredibly complex, layered, and frankly, opaque. The AI might give you a highly accurate prediction or make a very effective decision, maybe much better than a human could. But explaining why it reached that conclusion, often incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible even for the creators.
Like an oracle giving answers without reasons.
Kind of. Imagine an AI denies a loan application, or flags someone for surveillance, or even makes a critical medical diagnosis. And when you ask why, the system essentially says because the data patterns indicate this is the optimal output based on my training. No clear, human understandable chain of reasoning.
Which makes accountability a nightmare. How do you appeal? How do you fix errors if you don't know the cause?
Precisely. How do you ensure fairness or justice when the why is locked inside this computational black box? This lack of transparency poses huge challenges for our legal systems, for ethics, for just basic trust.
And here's where it gets really interesting or maybe unsettling. The source points out we barely understand our own complex motivations and emotions.
Right. If we struggle to fully grasp human decision-making, how can we expect to fully comprehend the optimization logic of an alien artificial intelligence, especially one that learned in ways we didn't explicitly program?
So regulating this stuff becomes incredibly hard.
Extremely hard. How do you set precise rules for a system whose internal workings are fundamentally opaque? How do you ensure it aligns with human values if you can't fully audit its reasoning process? It raises serious questions about maintaining meaningful human oversight.
And this ties into another risk. The sources mention this illusion of freedom.
Yes, this is subtle, but maybe even more pervasive. We're increasingly surrounded by algorithms learning about us constantly.
Recommendation engines, social media feeds, targeted ads.
Exactly. These systems learn your preferences, your habits, maybe even your psychological triggers, often better than you know them yourself. And then they subtly guide you. They curate your reality.
Nudging you towards certain choices, certain information.
Right, so you feel like you're freely choosing what video to watch, what news to read, what product to buy, but often your choices are being shaped, maybe heavily influenced, by algorithms optimizing for engagement or clicks or purchases. You're navigating a carefully constructed choice architecture.
Creating a false sense of autonomy, while we're actually inside an echo chamber or a filter bubble.
It can feel like that, yeah. It narrows your exposure, reinforces biases, and makes genuine, uninfluenced choice harder to come by.
So what does this all mean? Our individual freedom, our autonomy might be much more fragile, more susceptible to manipulation in this algorithmic age than we generally realize. It's a quiet erosion. It really is a profound dilemma. These autonomous machines, these agents, they're genuinely a dual-edged sword. On the one hand, the potential benefits are just enormous.
Yeah, you can't deny the upside.
Absolutely not. Think healthcare.
Yeah.
AI speeding up drug discovery, personalizing treatments, making diagnostics faster and more accurate. Huge potential to save lives, improve quality of life.
Transportation, too. Self-driving cars promising fewer accidents, less congestion. Right. In scientific research, AI analyzing massive data sets, finding patterns humans would miss, accelerating breakthroughs in climate science, genetics, material science. The list goes on. Real progress on big problems.
But then there's the other edge of the sword, the dangers.
Yes, and they are critical dangers, especially for our social discussions about the future. One big risk is simply ceding too much control. Humans might delegate really crucial decisions in finance, law, maybe even military strategy to these black box systems because they seem more efficient or rational.
Losing control and understanding in the process.
Exactly. We might not only lose our direct involvement, but also our ability to understand why things are happening or how to intervene effectively if things go wrong. It's a drift towards dependence without comprehension.
And the bias issue.
Huge issue. AI learns from data. If that data reflects existing societal biases, racial, gender, economic equality, the AI will learn those biases. Worse, it can amplify them and apply them systematically, making discriminatory outcomes seem objective or data-driven.
So an AI hiring tool or loan application system could just automate existing unfairness.
Precisely. Appearing neutral while embedding historical discrimination. And then there's the systemic weakening of individual freedom we just talked about, the subtle algorithmic guidance eroding genuine autonomy.
Yeah.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, autonomous machines offer incredible progress, yes, but potentially at the cost of transparency, fairness, and maybe even a gradual, subtle loss of human agency and control over our own lives and societies. It's a trade-off we need to be extremely conscious of.
Okay, so we've pulled apart these three ideas: consciousness, the subjective experience, the feeling, tied to pain, pleasure, value, meaning; intelligence, the ability to solve problems, achieve goals, compute effectively; agency, the ability to act, make choices, execute plans, often proactively and adapting.
Distinct dimensions, yeah.
Yeah.
Intelligence is about capability, consciousness is about experience, agency is about action or potential action.
Right. They are definitely distinct, but as we move into this final section, their relationship, how they connect or don't connect, seems absolutely central to figuring out our place alongside AI.
It really is, because it's in the interplay, or the lack thereof, that we start to see what might make humans unique and what the biggest challenges are going forward. And this is where the human distinction really comes into focus. This raises an important question. What is it that sets us apart? It's likely not just consciousness alone or agency alone.
It's having both together.
Exactly. It seems that humans uniquely possess both high levels of consciousness and significant agency. And critically, these two are deeply intertwined in how we live and make choices.
We don't just decide, we feel the decision.
Precisely. We deliberate. We weigh options not just rationally but emotionally. We anticipate how a choice might feel. We experience the consequences, regret, satisfaction, pride, guilt. When we make big life choices, career, family, ethical commitments, it's not just a logical calculation.
There's meaning attached.
Deep meaning. We experience the hopes, the fears, the values driving those choices. We don't just optimize for efficiency. We strive for things like value, purpose, freedom, things that are inherently subjective, felt experiences rooted in our consciousness. Our agency is guided by our conscious awareness of meaning and value.
So our actions have significance beyond just achieving an outcome.
That seems to be the core human trait highlighted here. It's this capacity for subjective meaning-making within our actions. We connect what we do with what we feel and what we value. And that link, that fusion of agency and conscious experience, might be profoundly different from what's happening with AI.
Okay, which brings us squarely to AI's distinction. As you said, AI can show incredible agency, making complex decisions, learning, acting autonomously, often way beyond human speed or capability.
Yeah, the agency part is increasingly undeniable.
Yeah.
Autonomous trading systems, sophisticated drones, AI managing power grids, high agency.
But the consciousness part, still a huge question mark, probably absent as far as we know.
Exactly. No evidence for subjective experience. So, an AI might master a task, optimize a supply chain, win a game, generate creative content with incredible skill. But the source makes this crucial point. It might not care about the implications.
The ethical dimension,
Yeah.
the meaning behind the action.
Right. It might not understand or experience the meaning of its own behavior in the way a conscious being would. For the AI, optimizing a factory might just be solving a complex equation. It doesn't feel the potential job losses or the environmental impact. It executes its objective function. It acts, but without the subjective weight, the felt significance that consciousness brings to human actions.
So what does this all mean for us? Fundamentally different ways of interacting with the world.
It seems so. Humans operate within a framework of conscious meaning, value, and felt experience guiding our agency. AI operates, it seems, with agency driven by intelligence and optimization goals, but likely without that layer of subjective understanding or care. That difference is profound. And understanding why this difference matters is absolutely critical for humanity's future, especially thinking about those social implications we keep coming back to.
Because if AI becomes dominant,
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source warns that if our future becomes increasingly managed by highly intelligent, highly autonomous, but non-conscious machines, then human experience itself, our core values, our sense of meaning, could get sidelined, marginalized.
how so?
Imagine a world optimized purely for efficiency or data-driven outcomes by AI systems that don't understand or value things like empathy, beauty, justice, suffering, or joy because they simply don't experience them. What happens to the space for those human qualities if they don't contribute to the AI's objective function?
We could end up in a world that works perfectly on paper but feels empty. or even oppressive.
That's the risk. A world optimized by agents that lack the very thing conscious experience that makes life meaningful to us. This leads to a really powerful idea about freedom that the source offers.
Which is?
True freedom isn't just passively accepting the best choice an algorithm presents you with. That's not freedom. That's just being efficiently managed.
Like being a well-cared-for pet in a gilded cage.
A stark way to put it, but
Yeah.
yeah, capture some of the concern. Instead, true freedom is about actively defining meaning and direction for ourselves. It's about conscious deliberation, aligning our actions with our deeply felt values, exercising our agency with a full understanding of the stakes and constraints, even when AI offers a seemingly optimal path.
So it's a call to action.
Absolutely. A call for humanity to remain vigilant, to stay sensitive to the importance of consciousness and subjective value, especially when faced with powerful autonomous machines. We need to actively carve out and protect spaces for meaning, for deliberate choice, for human values within this increasingly algorithmic world. We can't just passively let optimization take over the things that make us human.
This really isn't just academic, is it?
Not at all. It's about the essence of our future. How do we ensure human experience remains central? How do we use AI's power without losing ourselves? Distinguishing these concepts, consciousness, intelligence, agency, is the first step towards answering those critical questions for our collective future. #outro.
Wow. We have covered a lot of ground today, really trying to pull apart these huge ideas that are shaping everything.
It's heavy stuff, but incredibly important.
Absolutely. So just to quickly recap the core takeaways, we looked at those three key questions from the source material. First, consciousness versus intelligence, the big one, right? Being super smart doesn't automatically mean having feelings or any inner life. That decoupling is fundamental.
A challenge to our oldest intuitions.
Definitely. Second, we explored agency and freedom, how AI's ability to act proactively is amazing, yes, but also carries risks, black boxes, algorithmic influence potentially eroding our real freedom.
The dual-edged sword of autonomy.
Exactly. And finally, we looked at the relationship between consciousness and agency. How humans seem unique in combining both. We feel the meaning of our choices, while AI might just have the agency, the action, without that conscious understanding or experience.
A potential chasm in how we and AI operate in the world.
These distinctions, as we've said, they're not just for philosophers. They are vital for the critical social discussions we all need to be having about AI's role and our future.
And this whole deep dive really highlights a crucial mindset, doesn't it? We have to understand AI, its incredible strengths, yes, but also its limitations, its potential blind spots, its dangers.
Can't just be cheerleaders or doom mongers.
Exactly. We need open, critical thinking. That's what's paramount if we want to preserve what's uniquely human, our irreplaceability in certain domains, perhaps. It means engaging actively, asking hard questions, and making conscious choices about how we integrate these powerful technologies.
Yeah.
It means using our own agency, guided by our own conscious values.
So, as we leave you today, what does this all mean for you to maybe mull over? The source material leaves us with this really powerful thought. All these unknowns, these uncertainties about AI consciousness or future capabilities, they aren't reasons to just freeze up in fear.
No, they should be catalysts.
Right, they're invitations, really, to think more deeply. We must confront these questions. How can humanity remember and prioritize the value of conscious experience in a world increasingly optimized by non-conscious intelligence? How do we maintain clear-headed, critical thinking, our own agency, when faced with machines that act so powerfully, maybe even persuasively, but might not share our fundamental understanding of the world?
Big questions, no easy answer.
None at all. So keep exploring these ideas, keep asking these questions, apply them to how you see technology shaping society, shaping your own life. Because the future isn't just something that washes over us. It's something we need to consciously, deliberately build. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.